I would like to continue down the path of giving tools and tips that the people who are here can use. I mean, there's no magic bullet here to dealing with burnout, but I think these are best practices and people need to try them out. But I know that each of you are kind of domain experts. And I want to start with Sarah, and then Lee and Angela can talk about this too, because it all overlaps like Venn diagrams. What is the mindset piece to dealing with this?
There's a lot of answers to that. I mean, I'm gonna go back to that piece of giving yourself permission to really do what you want. I mean, we've talked about that a little bit, but I think that if we talk about why that's so hard, right? Why is it so hard to do that? Why is it so hard to say, I want this, and then to move forward and get it, right? It's because of fear, right? I mean, that's one of the many things, but sort of the fear around the failure. And so I think the mindset piece is sort of, what do you need to do to get yourself in that mind? Well, what is your relationship with failure? I mean, I think that's a really important place to look, because in order to give yourself permission to define your version of success, to figure out what you can let go of and what you don't want to do anymore, that all is tied to your self-worth and your willingness to put yourself first, right? So I think, there's so many things I could say, but I'm trying not to overload. But I think, if we can just get real with the fear of failure and sort of, I think a lot about redefining failure, like what it really is a failure, right? And can we change our relationship with failure? And maybe, is failure such a bad thing? What do you learn from failure? What do you learn from things? Like if you try and reach for something, like try and go for that, say, lifestyle you want, you hit a bump in the road or it doesn't quite work out. Like, what do you learn from it, right? You learn so much from those experiences. Think about everything you've ever done that you've gotten good at, right? Did you pick up your instrument and were you a master at the beginning? No, right? When you started to build your business, did you have 10 amazing clients on the second week? No, right? Like thinking about the process that we need to learn to get better at something, right? And if we can change our relationship with that, it can be a clearer path to this sort of ideal that we're talking about of living your own definition of success, giving yourself permission to ask what you want, taking a leap, just like Angela did with saying, all right, I'm going to finally go for this business, and Lee too, right? So I think that is, that's like the pre-conversation to what we're tackling in some ways. But I think it's really important. I'm looking at the comments. It's not failure to turn around and drive out of a cul-de-sac. Yeah, exactly. And I think I like that one.
That's good.
But I think, it's really, we get to decide our relationship with failure and what we make it mean. We are the meaning makers. We can make it mean we're not enough, we're not good enough, we're bad, right? Or we can make it mean that we're learning. We can make it mean that because the more we fail, the closer we get to success, right? We get to make it mean whatever we want.
Please.
Well, I just want to piggyback a little bit on what you said, because that's so true. And what I'm so interested in is the somatic representation of fear. Because fear is fear. It doesn't matter whether, we're worried about slipping on ice or hitting a deer in the road or playing a wrong note. Our being reacts the same way. And so when we start noticing fear of failure, how does that show up in our bodies? What do we do about it? And then we can start the rewiring. And for me, it's about finding that threshold. So I want to train myself to have enough awareness so that as soon as I start to feel that fear, comes up all the time now. I was thinking about going to the National Flute Convention. Such anxiety about it. I just said, forget it. I'm going to lose my $1,000. But for weeks, I was like going to it and away from it, to it and away from it, so I could embody the sense of safety. Because fear is about not feeling safe. Fear is about, I'm going to die. It doesn't matter what it is. That's what the primitive brain is telling us. And how that is the practice that we have to do in our practicing and in our mindset and our thoughts and our feelings to find out, where the edge is and how we can create safety with ourselves to be able to go through that to the other side and come back if we need to, but actually start to go forward.
Burnout, a lot of times, if we boil it all down, you guys talked about fear and failure. I think it all comes back to fear and safety. And what are we afraid of? Because if we're continuing in something that we don't enjoy, or we don't like, or we have anxiety because we feel like we have to do something, but there's a reason we don't want to do it, or there's just, if we boil it all down, doesn't it just come back to we're afraid of something? What is that? Are we afraid of change? Are we afraid of success? Are we afraid of failure? Or we're afraid we don't have courage? I mean, it could be all kinds of things. What's the worst that can happen when you're thinking about what you're dealing with burnout? When we boil it back, what is it that I'm afraid of in the situation? What's really the worst that can happen? And a lot of times we can name this, and we can name this, and we can name this. And it's like, no, that's a symptom. That's a symptom. That's a symptom. That's not the real thing. So it takes some courage to go back into, what am I really afraid of? You know, am I afraid I'm going to lose my home? Am I afraid I'm going to be homeless? Am I afraid I'm going to die? I mean, is it that area, or is it, I'm afraid I really will disappoint someone? Or is it afraid that I am not living up to my true expectations of myself? You know, getting down to that root cause, I think, is really important. And it takes some courage to do that, because I think it's easier if you have somebody you can talk to and you can say that, play that with them, somebody you trust. Because I feel like it's harder to do that asking yourself. But, you know, when you tend to talk to somebody, you talk it out, and then suddenly you just said it. And, oh, I did know.